It's National Signing Day, and the biggest domino on the Badgers board has yet to fall. What I think of the AMARI Latimer situation and grading the other offensive spots. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Happy National Signing Day. I'm your host, Ryan Hopkins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. Appreciate everybody for being a part of the show. Whether you're dialing in now or you're going to see it later, thank you guys so much. Today's episode brought to you by our great friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel members, $5 bet can get you $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. All right, let's talk National Signing Day. Let's talk AMARI Latimer. Let's talk quarterback. Let's talk offensive positions. We'll grade every offensive position with what we know so far. Get your comments. Let me know where you're at. I think we got to start here. We got to start with AMARI Latimer. We got to start with the biggest domino on the board for the Wisconsin Badgers. And it hasn't officially happened yet. He was supposed to announce, I think, 3:30 Central Time. It is 3:46. Let me know in the chat if he has announced, if you've seen that. All signs point to West Virginia. All signs right now, it looks like if you look at what's going on in our Discord, if you look at the smoke in the fire is all blowing towards West Virginia right now for AMARI Latimer. And man, let's start with this. That is a brutal blow for Wisconsin. It's a brutal blow for Wisconsin, this recruiting class. I can't imagine the staff with all the time and energy and effort and resources. I mean, significant resources put into getting him up on campus multiple times. This was the crown jewel of the class, and it sounds like he's not going to sign with the Badgers. Again, that could change. I haven't seen anything official yet. If somebody sees when he posts something, let me know in the chat because I'm obviously going live now. Here's my thoughts on this, and let me know in the chat where you're at. In general, so here's what it sounds like happened. It sounds like West Virginia came in and has offered a significantly larger amount of money. I don't know that for sure. I'm not reporting that. That's me kind of reading between the lines, seeing some things that are out there. If that's the case, I generally don't ever have an issue with players taking more money somewhere else. That's just me. Now, I think there's ways to do things. Maybe you weren't as upfront with the staff as you should have been. We had Justin joining us as well today. This is kind of an impromptu show. Justin, we're just kind of right now jumping into the AMARI Latimer thing, and I'm giving my 2 cents. Generally, again, he hasn't signed, but it looks like West Virginia is going to be the place for the biggest domino on the Wisconsin Badgers recruiting board. Generally, where I'm at on this is I don't blame kids for taking the most money. Where are you at on Latimer if he doesn't sign here?
I don't like how it was handled. I don't have an issue with it being a financial decision. To me, I've had doubts about him since the visit started. And that to me was just don't be committed. Like if you're going to play this game with the negotiations or whatever, you literally could have had the money thing figured out months ago. Like you could have just went to all these guys and said, this is what's important to us. This is what we're looking for. What are you guys looking to offer? And you could have figured this out days ago. Instead, now you just screwed over a coaching staff. Like they were banking on you being in their class because you've told them all along, I'm going to be a part of this class. Don't worry, the visits mean nothing, whatever. And then you suddenly just go bag grabbing at the last second. So to me, it's just bad. It's negotiating in bad faith. Like, I don't care what money you want. That's fine. Do whatever you want to do. Like, that's what's important to you. But you're screwing over staff in the process of this. And I get it. It's a business, whatever. I just think you need to always be looking at it from the standpoint of, like, this is going to be a reflection of the character that I'm projecting now. And now every staff that's going to take a look at him, like West Virginia is going to have to deal with this next year. His brother's got 1 year left.
Your internet is really wonky right now. Is anyone else seeing that? You're like pausing and starting and stopping. And your voice is coming over very robotic. I don't Maybe you're jumping into another recruiting class at the last minute and dropping Locked On Badgers for a bigger bag.
No. Better no.
Yeah. Jump. Everyone in the chat is kind of saying, Chris says you're so heated, you're buffering. Try jumping down and coming back in. Try jumping down and coming back in. And Brian says, Robo Justin. Again, so yeah, everything Justin is saying is right. But here's again where I come from on this. And I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, and this is just my opinion. But if at the last minute, who cares? To me, if a lot of adults do this, right? When you have a job and another job comes in with an offer, you listen. I think at times we hold players to standards that we as adults don't live up to. And maybe that's not completely fair. And I agree there's ways to do this that maybe he didn't handle in the best way. And it does kind of screw over this staff. But ultimately, if another school came in and offered a significant amount of money, how are you going to tell that kid turn down? Let's say it's $200,000 more. Would you turn that down because you have a long-standing relationship? Would somebody else turn that down because they have a long-standing relationship? That's life-changing money, and he's a running back. Your running back career can end on a single cut. I mean, we saw it with guys. Who was that South Carolina running back who was an absolute monster several years ago, who tore his knee 3 times? Justin, you remember who that South Carolina running back was like 5 years ago? That
was another Latimer.
It was, wasn't it? It was a Latimer. But so the point I'm making,
I can't remember what his name was. He ended up going to the pros.
He was incredible. But my point I'm making is, if you're a running back, why not? And let's say it's a last minute offer. West Virginia comes in and says, we're going to give you $300,000 more. And I'm not saying that's the number. Why would you not take that? I just have a hard time saying don't take that because you have a long-standing relationship.
No, I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm saying that the way the negotiations were handled. What I will say is this entire situation felt to me like this. I don't feel like it was a lot of schools coming to him. It feels a lot more like it was, we're looking for money and going out there and grabbing other schools and trying to get them involved to try and up the price. Because that feels to me why you had schools kind of dropping out of this, like Ohio State and them that were getting involved, and they're kind of like, we don't need to play this game. Wisconsin had to play this game to a degree. Whether or not you feel like it was worthwhile, I don't. We talked about Ryan Estrada, somebody that they canceled the visit on way back in the day, who ended up ultimately going to Minnesota, who I really liked. And I was kind of like, don't risk this. Like, if this kid ends up flaking on you, which, hey, guess what? He ended up flaking on us. Don't risk somebody else who seems like they're legitimately interested in your school over somebody who seems like there's other things driving the things that are important to them. And when it comes to financials, it's always going to be a matter of who's offering the most. And that tells you how committed a kid is. And we saw it today. And it felt like they were starting a bidding war. They got Miami involved, then they got West Virginia involved. And it's like, we didn't really hear anything about any of these other schools throughout the process until now. And that to me is like, well, how serious are you about Wisconsin then at all? And that was always the thing to me that was the biggest factor was, I want a kid who's like, yes, money can be a factor, but I want him ultimately to want to be a part of playing for Wisconsin. Because if that's not a part of it and he's not buying into the culture and the fit of the program, that kid's going to be out the door the second somebody else offers him another dollar amount, which is, we know most of these kids aren't going to play as freshmen. Don't set yourself up to be at risk that a kid, you develop a kid for a year and then he goes someplace else and ends up being the real values to them.
I get that point. And I truly get the point that this kind of stinks too. This is kind of an NCAA thing. This is not all on the players. The NCAA has for a long time done a poor job of setting this up. Here's my thing on needing a guy to buy in. I think you get a player here and then you have a year to sell your culture and your team. And if in a year you can't do that, that's kind of on you as a program. It's kind of on you as your coaches.
That only matters though if the kid actually cares about those things. Like if he's only driven by money, which in this case, I think that's ultimately how I've felt about him since this started panning out with the visits elsewhere. I don't think he cared where he was committed. I think he felt financially, whoever is going to give me what I want is where I'm ultimately going. I don't think it really was a matter of, Wisconsin is where I want to be. My heart's there. I think it was, I'll go wherever who's willing to drop the biggest bag on me. And we've seen this happen at other schools. It's just Wisconsin has typically done a better job of not getting involved in these situations. And this just happened to be the one time we did it, and we got stung by it.
Yeah, I'll say this too. We don't know where he's signed yet. Like we'll see, right? Crazier things have happened in recruiting. Maybe
there's a lot of people in the know that have already posted stuff. When I see Nick and them, and this isn't behind the paywall.
I hear you.
The balls are out there.
I'll just say my big thing here is money is going to get you in the door in a lot of elite recruits. When you get that guy in the door, then you can sell your program, your culture. And if in a year he leaves, well, I don't know. I just don't think you can write off every player that money is the main motivator for, because you're going to lose out on a lot of talent. You have to win.
I'm not denying that, but this one never felt like it was money, but like, yeah, I'm invested in this coaching staff. This one always felt like I always felt like the coaching staff was kind of not wanting to make waves in this situation, and that always bothered me. Because to me, in this situation, I think you need to put your foot down with a certain thing. It's like we saw Paul Chris and them kind of do that. Like, I honestly there should have been a point in this recruitment where you just flat out say, I'm putting my foot down. You've done the visits. You've done everything else. Are you in or are you out? And he has a right to ask for whatever he wants for, but we have a right to come back and say, all right, we're not playing this game anymore. Are you in or are you jumping out? We need to know that you're going to be a part of this class, and we're not negotiating anymore. And Wisconsin failed in that. Yeah. And that's on us.
I'll say this goes back to something you and I have both talked about. I didn't like it when they dropped some visits from people. Estrada's one of them.
Absolutely. That was a huge red flag to me.
Receiver, another one. Like there were some receivers that you probably could have had in this class, but you kind of stopped. Listen, you got to oversign at this point, because you're going to
Washington should be in this class.
I agree.
That was a mistake on this staff's part.
I planted my flag in that one, and they're like, well, we have 3 receivers. I'm like, you can't have too many receivers at Wisconsin. Get Zachary Washington too.
We're going to need 4 or 5 in the portal, which is going to be ridiculous, by the way.
So yeah, you got to stop canceling visits. I think you have to make sure you get quantity in classes. The other thing I'd say, big picture here with AMARI Latimer, he's very talented. The offer list reflects that. The film reflects that. He is also a running back, which are among the easier spots to find. It's not like you lost an elite corner, quarterback, left tackle. You can replace running back easier, Justin. So I think in the big picture, you hate losing a blue chip kid, but this is a blue chip kid at running back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we were talking about it in the Discord, and I said, if this is Petit, I hands down, like I'm paying whatever it takes to get him here, because getting a difference maker at wide receiver with a big body like that is really difficult for Wisconsin to do. It's not the same with a running back, where you can go out there and spend less money than we probably would have been paying to Latimer in this and get 1,000-yard back, because those guys are coming from whatever lower level school and they're really productive. And you're like, he may not have top shelf pro measurables, but he's a really productive back. And I honestly, we're probably going to grab a couple of those guys in the portal this year. And I'm going to look at it and I'm going to be like, this kid's a really nice back. He's not amazing, but he's going to fit and he's going to be productive and do what we need him to do. And that's what we need.
I agree. Justin, really quick, grade this class as of right now. They might still add a couple bodies, but grade this class. Then we're going to go offensive position, get some of the comments in the chat. It's like a D for me. And it's not because there's not players in here I don't really like. I like Hopkins a lot. I like Keyshawn. I like Wiggins a lot. But there's just not enough bodies, man.
And that's where I'm at too. I'm like a D. I would honestly say this. I've said all along, I thought this class should be 20 plus, and I stand by that. And I said today, you abide by the law of thirds. If this class has a third that are starters, a third that are contributors, and a third that are washouts, you're looking at 3 or 4 guys. When you have 20 plus bodies, you're now looking at it potentially being 6, 7 guys. That's half of a side of the ball. Like, if we're only going to get 1 or 2 starters on each side of the ball on this, that's a problem. And this is the biggest issue where we're fickle talking about the portal and everything that you're dealing with going forward. If you have a massive outlay for this year in the portal, chasing all this, you're just kicking the can down the road 1 year, because a lot of them are probably going to be 1-year guys. And now you're going to be looking at next year when you're like, well, now we need a 25-person class and trying to make that work. And who knows if we end up having a better season. If Fickle leaves after this year because it doesn't get better or not substantially enough for us to keep him, this roster is going to be in a huge poor spot. Like, we could be looking at potentially a roster with like 50 people on it and having to start over from scratch with a new coach. Because I think we're going to lose 15 to 20 in the transfer portal.
Hooger is saying, Twitter is saying we just upped the offer on Latimer. You might still be in this. Here's the thing, though. I think there's a lot of portal guys you can get that 2 or 3 years too. I mean, we've seen them target some of those guys. So not everybody you're getting in the portal is going to be a 1-year kick the can down the road. I agree with your overall point. You can't stack small recruiting classes because it kills the depth of your program. We're seeing that now. Well, hold on. We got to take a quick break, though. We got to come back. I'm already way past, which is shoddy podcasting on my part. Let's take a quick break. We're going to go back, talk offense positions, a little more big picture, take your comments. Again, we'll do a couple of shows this week, but first, a quick second for our friends of the show, to say thank you for tuning in Locked On Badgers. Today's episode brought to you by our incredible friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is amazing. One big play and suddenly everything feels different, which is the ability to bet live in games is what makes FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're part of it, right? As the quarterbacks get hot, as maybe that receiver's catching that touchdown in the third quarter, the lines adjust in real time, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. FanDuel is the best spot for live betting on the NFL because when the game starts to shift, you can get in on that action. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantaneously. Player props as guys heat up. You can bet on the next touchdown score, the next drive, totals, results. You can get locked into every single snap. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so do you. Okay, Justin, let's really quick, let's finish up on your big picture thought there, and then I want to get into some of the offensive positions.
Well, sure. What I want to say is regarding this transfer portal thought that we're going to do this, like there's a fallacy involved in this that we can just fill in the portal, and I'll say it. The problem you're going to have with this is high school kids are largely unknown, which means the dollars are somewhat depressed in that because of that fact. They haven't proven anything. The portal is always, for the most part, going to be production that you're purchasing, which means that people are going to be bidding on that because they know that there's value there because they've seen it on the field. It's tangible at that level. So where you get this idea in your head that you're just going to go out there and buy a bunch of players that have produced already at the college level, I think that's a massive risk, and the money's not going to stretch as far as you think it is. Like, you're going to be putting yourself in a tough spot where you look at it and you're like, I wanted 20 kids in the recruiting, for high school recruiting. You may only have to pay truly 6 or 7 of those guys. When you go into the portal and try to grab 20 guys, you're going to probably have to pay 15 of them. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be a lot tougher to do than it is with the high school kids. Plus, when you get those kids and you're growing them in your own system, they know your system. You've seen this guy be productive in somebody else's system. It may or may not translate in the same way.
Yeah, you're paying for, proven production to some degree. I will say, and I think you're kind of hitting on this. I want to rephrase it a little bit just because getting my brain around it. Even if we spend more, you have to be really careful with where your resources go, and you still have to spend really smart. Sure. And I think, as much as I love AMARI Latimer, dude, I think he's one of the top probably 10-ish backs in the country this class. I'm higher on him than some people. It's fine if other people disagree with that. Even if you love him, you can't just match dollar for dollar infinitely on a high school running back because you have so many needs on this roster. You have to fill out offensive line. You have to fill out quarterback, receiver, corner, defensive line. They need 2 running backs, Justin. You can't just continue to go in an infinite cycle on how high we're going to go for a high school player. As much as you might love him, you're just going to end up with resources.
Can you grab Doc's last
I can try. Hold
comment?
On.
It's the last. That one. So the point I want to make on this is Doc saying, but the production value will be less than someone unproven holding you hostage. I agree with that completely. I don't think you can get into a lot of bidding wars with high school kids. I will flat out say that until they've proven it on the field, like, you can only go so far. You have to set a mark that you're not willing to cross with a high school kid and say, I don't know what you're going to be, so I'm not going to pay this. Whereas that line may be different for somebody. I brought it up in the Discord saying Nick Marsh is one of those guys.
I love him.
He's got 2 years where he's been awesome at Michigan State. I'll go above $1 million for him because I know he's going to go out there and act like a number one wide receiver at the college level. And that's something you maybe wouldn't do with Jaden Petit because you don't know if he's going to translate necessarily. I think he will, but you don't know for sure that's happening. So yes, there is a difference in certain aspects of it where you can see that and not pay it. And I think that that's where you have to look at it from the high school kids is you have to say, I don't know what I'm getting from you, so I can't be dropping, bags. That's why the quarterback money that gets thrown out there, I have no idea why that happens. Like so many of these kids never turn into anything at quarterback, and you have people offering them multiple millions of dollars.
Yeah, let's hit quarterback for a second here. There's a lot I want to get into it, a bunch of comments. I'm trying to star some. And I think we could talk this for hours, to be honest. But I want to go through some of the players that did sign. We spent almost 20 minutes kind of on the idea of AMARI Latimer. Justin, let's go quarterback for a second. Let's grade the offensive positions.
Yeah.
So quarterback, Ryan Hopkins signs. Everybody kind of knows that story. 6'3", mobile. I think it's a B+, maybe A-. I'm tempted to go A- because I don't think you're going to get a toolsier kid from a better high school program. I think A- on quarterback for me with Ryan Hopkins.
Yeah, I think so. From a tool standpoint, he's A+ to me. From a developed standpoint, I think that there's mentally in some parts of it where you wish that he was a little bit more refined. So that drops it a little bit lower. I think he's probably a B+ for me. His ceiling is off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a guy, and I know he's shown times that he's run like a 4.6 or whatever. He's a 4.5 guy. I feel pretty confident that based off that 100 time being a 10.66, I think he's a legit 4.5 guy in the college game, which is flat out. You lose contain on him, and he may end up going the distance if guys are in the wrong spots.
To me, again, it's an A- because I don't know where you could have gotten much better at this position given this season.
That's fair. If you're looking strictly from value, yeah.
Imagine what Guyton is selling this season to quarterbacks. Like, look at what we're doing. Come here and play in this offense. And
fair, totally fair.
You got a good one. I think timeline. I think there's a chance he's not going to start this year, but I think there's a chance you get him in. He redshirts this year, Justin. He learns, he grows. I think this is potentially a guy redshirt freshman season. He could be your starter if he takes a jump.
Yeah, a lot will come down to how quickly he takes the college game. I think it helps being in a more like a college light program like Mater Dei. But yeah, it's a lot will depend. I mean, he's never going to see the speed that he sees on the field in practice on a day-to-day basis is far closer to the college game than any other place he could possibly be.
And he's also played with real receivers, real tight ends, in a real scheme, in a real program that wins. Those things matter. If you come from a program that is used to winning, has weight rooms and coaches, and it takes it seriously, I think he could be a starter redshirt freshman. All right, we're going to take one more quick second. We're going to come back running backs. Obviously, Latimer's not in this class as of now, but we got another one we need to talk to. Justin, how would you grade this running back room? That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show. Quick second, as always, to say thank you for tuning into Locked On Badgers. Justin, this running back room, obviously sans AMARI Latimer, barring something crazy, but you do get Fat Boy. You get Quintavious Wiggins in here, another down south kid. Fast, man. He gets north and south really quick. How would you grade the running back room with just Wiggins in it?
I think it's a B+. I really like him as a back. I think he adds something to that room that isn't there right now. He's a true game breaker type guy. Like he's got a second gear where he can just blow by people. I think that's a big deal. He's going to need to add some weight. I do think he's a lot cleaner than you see a lot of backs coming out of high school in terms of he's more decisive. He doesn't dance a whole lot, which is good for him. And I think the vision is pretty good. So he's a guy I think can push and potentially find himself at least getting some reps in the 2 deep in the first season. I wouldn't be shocked if you end up seeing something from him because I do think if they're looking for somebody that can add some burst to the running game, I think he definitely provides that. And we both know that running back is a position that typically you can see the field earlier.
Yeah, I like him. I think he's a slasher. I think he fits what Grimes wants to do really well. Shows good ability between the tackles and then gets north and south really, really quick. I think it's a B for me. I think running backs is a B because I think you needed 2 in this class. And if it wasn't AMARI Latimer, then it's Wiggins and Estrada, or it's Wiggins and somebody else, right? Like this is a group. We didn't take a running back last cycle, and you and I both said you got to take a running back every cycle. So now in over 2 cycles, you have 1 running back. It's just not enough bodies. I think for that reason, it's a B. But I like Wiggins. Wiggins to me isn't a consolation prize. He's like a 1.
No, he's a legit dude.
I agree. Let's go tight ends. Jack Severs, sorry. Obviously lost Janda, who could have been a tight end or defensive lineman. How would you grade the tight end room?
I would say the upside on him is potentially off the charts. As a guy who can be split out at tight end, him and Nazai Davis are probably fighting over who's the more athletic guy there. I think Davis is probably a little more physical in the air attacking the ball, but you don't have a better athlete than Severs out there. Like, he's a legit 4'6" guy who can go out there and stretch the seam at tight end. And that's something Wisconsin hasn't had since what? Kendrick?
Beckham or Kendricks. It'd be one of those two. Yeah. I think it's a B+. Like, I like him a lot. I like the athleticism. And I look at this tight end room and you look at the pieces coming back. This is kind of where in recruiting, sometimes you can't be too picky, but it's also nice, Justin, if you can fill in what you don't have on the roster. And you have Steck coming back. You have Bork coming back. You have some really big time, I think, inline guys that are going to be pretty good. Ashcraft coming back. This is a guy that complements him. I think he can add to the receiving game. I like this a lot. I think it's a B+. Maybe an A- if you would have had Janda, but I really like this one.
Yeah, I would agree. I would put him in that.
Yeah, I think he's a really good athlete. That's a nice get. Let's go to receivers. This one's interesting to me. Obviously, you get Zion Legree. You pick up that late pickup from Keyshawn, flipping the Vanderbilt receiver. Where do you have this receiver group?
I would say I think it's a C+. You really needed to get somebody with some size.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Keyshawn. I think there's a burst there with him when you watch his film where he just seems to be flying by guys. I don't think he is the smoothest or shiftiest guy, but that's something that will hopefully tighten up with time. I do think people are going to struggle with him because he gets on top of people really quick on film when you look at him. And I think that that's something that's going to translate because he seems to really be able to run.
I struggled with this one because I'm just not sure. I'm not sure if you have a true boundary receiver with either of these guys.
I don't know. Neither one of them is big enough.
Right. And I know there's some talk about, one of them could be a boundary guy. We see. I think when you watch them both on film, Justin, they both kind of do the same thing. They both kind of take jet sweeps. They catch receiver screens. They play out of the slot. Now, there's clips of them on boundary, but I think a lot of what they're doing translates to the slot at the next level more than boundary.
I agree.
I really like both these players. I mean, Legree is built like a brick house. But
the difference with these guys is in the slot, both of them are capable of running fly routes and actually beating people, which is something that Tretch really hasn't been able to do. Like, they're more advanced in terms of like what they can do beyond 15 to 20 yards than what we really have in house right now, which does give them some versatility in terms of the scheme. They just don't necessarily, there aren't guys that you necessarily want on the perimeter having to have a DB get their hands on them.
Which one do you like more out there if you had to pick one? I think it's Keyshawn. Is it Tabatu? I'm struggle with the pronunciation of the name. I'll get it.
I'm avoiding it. Let's say KT.
I'll call him KT. I think KT is the more likely guy to be on the perimeter, to be honest. I think Legree is more likely as your kind of big jumbo slot player, but neither are a natural fit. And then that's where Petit would have been.
He's got a solid frame. Like, he actually looks like I know we've seen some things where people have called him small, and I'm like, he looks legit 5'11", like 180 plus on his film. And I think somebody had him listed at like 5'11", 195, which if that's the case and it's good weight, I mean, he's got some jets. There's a chance both of these guys end up running 10.7 or less in their senior film, like in the senior track season. So both of these guys are burners, and that's something Wisconsin's needed for a while.
Yeah, I think it's like a B- for me, by the way, for the receiver grade. I think when you look at KT's offer list, it's Florida State was in on him as well. It's a really impressive offer list. I like Legree. Again, I think he's just built like a brick house. I think he's going to be able to play early because of where he's coming in physically. So I think it's like a B- if you compare it to past Badger classes, but it's not a great group. Let's talk offensive line, Justin. One of your favorite spots to talk about with this Wisconsin Badgers team brings in one player. I think a player, I don't know if we've even talked about Brady Becken, who's very much between the two of us. I like him, by the way.
Yeah, I'm going to give two grades here. I'm going to give, to me, Brady is a B+ or A- type guy. I think he's a really nice recruit. The overall position group, I'm giving it like a D+. And I say that because you needed more bodies here. You needed, in my opinion, you needed 3 guys. I think you need to be on the mindset that every class you have 3. because there's going to be guys that wash out at this position. There's going to be guys that get injured. You have to make sure you have enough depth at that position. We saw this year how badly it hurts you when you don't have the bodies and you don't want to go running in the portal fighting with everybody else over what's out there. So this was a massive miss in my view in terms of what you truly wanted in terms of that group.
No argument whatsoever. I think this is a D class. And that's with me really liking Brady. I think Brady's a future right tackle for this program. I think he moves really well. He's got a frame. But dude, you can't get one offensive lineman. And by the way, one of the reasons we're in this spot right now is go back to that 23-24 class. How many offensive linemen?
One offensive lineman who washed out.
You got nothing. They got nothing. And that's part of the reason why depth was so bad this year. You have to get multiple offensive linemen. And by the way, there's kids from Wisconsin that are signing at other powerful programs, offensive linemen. You should have been able to get one of those, Justin, or another 3-star somewhere. It felt like, you know what it did? You know what it felt like a little bit? And Blas is a really good recruiter, I think. But the last two classes, they hit a lot of their Plan A guys. They did. It felt like when they struck out on their Plan A guys this year, like the Leo Delaney's, the Obots, it felt like when they struck out on those guys, they didn't have the next tier ready to go.
No, they didn't. This felt like more the Paul Chris time when we just wouldn't have that backup group that it seemed like we were ready to go. It's like, no, you need to make sure you have, like, your list needs to be deep. Like, you need to make sure if you miss that you have options. You can't be going to Plan C right away from A.
Alan says, if you're unwilling to pay for high school recruits, you won't get any going forward. And I want to throw both these comments up here, and Justin, to just get our kind of general takes, because there's two separate views kind of here. Yeah. And I think the truth is in the middle, right? So Alan, if you're not willing to pay, you're not going to get recruits. Mike says, do you really want a guy who's only in it for money? I don't. The truth is in the middle of both of those.
Yeah. There's not a problem with kids wanting money. There's a problem when that's all they care about, because you need them to at least, like, it's not a miss for people out there to say the people that are only driven by money are more likely to just, check out mentally. They have to be invested in something else within your company. Otherwise, they're going to just be like, money is not enough to keep me interested in this long term. So there's not a problem with that. They're going to see value. People are going to come after them. Ideally, every recruit would be in love with Wisconsin and want to come play here. That's not realistic. So you need to be able to, I don't have a problem with them wanting some money, but it can't be the only thing they're looking for. And from the standpoint of it, we should be able to offer something. We're too big of a program not to. I'm going to be very interested to see how this plays out from a transfer portal situation. We sure didn't spend a ton likely in this class. So the resources should be there for you to really attack this in the transfer portal.
And Justin, it is official. AMARI Latimer is committed to West Virginia, according to Rivals. Oh, I mean, listen, we all knew that was coming at this point, but
I'm shocked.
Yeah. Where's your shocked face, Justin? Golly, though. Isn't it friggin' wild, by the way, that it felt like the whole time we were battling, let's keep him out of Ohio State's hands and Tennessee. And even Miami, we kind of knew was coming. He ends up in Morgantown. What the?
Well, that's the weird thing about it, is we had all these goofy things that were happening where you look at it and you're like, why is it that we're seeing some of the schools that were involved with him, like Georgia Tech and West Virginia and some of these others? And it's like, I don't understand how these teams are getting involved when you have the likes of Ohio State and Miami in them. There's a very different pecking order in college football. If you grew up a Georgia Tech fan, that's fine. I don't have an issue with it. But it seemed like they were kind of a Johnny-come-lately in the whole thing. Mm-hmm. They weren't really there, and all of a sudden they were. And it's like, well, what brought this along?
And they're spending money. That's what it is. Texas Tech did the same thing, right? Texas Tech landed a bunch of kids they shouldn't have been able to land, but they had a lot of money. West Virginia opened up the paycheck. Listen, if that's what he's going to chase, then go chase it. Again, you can't go crazy amounts for a high school running back. I will say this: if you were on our Discord or anything, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, about this being a little sketchy, and it is what it is. AMARI Latimer out of the class.
I got to go, dude. I'm going to let you go, but thank you.
Later, boss. Smo says $signs. Oh, it is frustrating, man. When you look at this class, where's the high-end talent? Right. Who's the highest upside guy in this class? I would say it's probably Ryan Hopkins at this point. size, physical tools, speed, good arm, quarterback. But when you for a while there, you could dream on a class of Jaden Petit, you could dream on a class of AMARI Latimer, and those were your high upside offensive guys. Now you got to go to the portal. Now you got to go and find those players in the portal. And maybe that's better anyway. Devin Bart says locked on curse. There is if you're a longtime member of the show, if you're in the Discord, there is a belief. I'll say that a belief that I don't buy into, that if a recruit comes on Locked On Badgers, they eventually decommit. There have been a couple players that this has been true for. Mari Latimer was obviously on the show. Jaden Petit's trainer was on the show. I don't count that one because I never had Jaden Petit officially. But listen, I had Carson Elam's on the show. He's a great kid. He signed. Ben Wenzel, great kid. He signed. Diju Ba, great kid. He signed. So I don't believe in the Locked On curse. Don't put this on me. Don't put this on me. I've drank enough varsity ale as well to help, stock our coffers. All right, let me get some of these starred comments up here. Justin Legal gave the class a B-. And I was thinking about this earlier. And I think if you want to take the optimistic route, because I wanted to start this comment, what's the optimistic look at this class right now? I think the optimistic look is there's a lot of quality. There's not a ton of quantity in this class, but there's nobody I look at. If I want to take a look at this class and be optimistic, there's nobody I look at as a reach. I don't think they reached for any player in this class. Even their late ads, if you remember several years ago, if you've been following recruiting for a long time, Badger fans, there was a Bielema class where on signing day, he added like 6 people. One of them, I think, ended up being Scott Tolzien. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I'm a little fuzzy. But like 5 of them were just like clearly reaches, or 4 of them were just clearly reaches. And you had an extra Scully and you just signed somebody, 2-star player. I don't think there's any reaches in this class. I like both corners. I like Wenzel. I like all 3 defensive linemen. I really like Brady Beaconhouse. I think he's a really talented offensive lineman, mobile, long arms. I love Wiggins. I like both receivers. I like Hopkins. I like Sievers. I mean, they won't all pan out because it's recruiting and it's life, but I don't think there's any reaches. So if you want to be optimistic on this class, I think that's what you look at. I think they added quality, but they just didn't get enough bodies. T-Matt says, with Daniel Neal, a good use of our NIL money this last year. I think the concept of it was, like, you can't NIL your way out of injuries, but the concept of getting a backup quarterback that had experience, maybe you don't win that second out-of-conference game without Daniel Neal. Maybe you don't win either of those out-of-conference games without Daniel Neal, right, after Billy Edwards went down. So I do think it is a good use of your NIL money to go get an established backup quarterback. Now, he got hurt. It's the quarterback curse at Wisconsin. But yes, I actually do think it was a good use of your NIL money. And I think they're going to have to do it again. Go get 3 quarterbacks this offseason. Artificial Badger says we have so many needs and are filling none of them. Well, the one thing I'd say on this, Artificial Badger, and dude, thank you for jumping in the chat and being a really good member of this community. You aren't going to fill those immediate needs in the 2026 class anyway. All your immediate needs got to get filled in the portal, or they have to get filled through internal development. That's where your needs are going to get filled. This class is filling your needs 2 years from now. And you're going to feel this pain 2 years from now because you didn't get enough bodies. That's the pain we feel from not filling out those 23 and 24 classes. But your immediate needs aren't going to be filled from this group anyway. Dominic says, at the end of the day, I better see this money spent elsewhere if it is not spent here. Yeah, it's all about resources, resource allocation. So you have money. This is a big chunk of it that you had probably planned for. Go use it to get a portal running back, or go use it to get 2. You have to now. You have to go into the portal aggressively. Baron Von Trout, I'm more outraged that we picked up a grand total of 1 in-state recruit, Mr. Ben Wenzel. They got to get better here. They have to get better here. And I wish, if I'm just being real with y'all, I wish they would just take one guy. This is something John McNamara of 247 and I talked about. I wish they would just take one guy and assign him to the state and really hit the state harder, because I think there's 6 or 7 other Division I players in Wisconsin going to Power 4 or Power 5 programs. You got to get a couple of those because they're not layups, but I think they're safer. I think they build a floor. They help with the culture. You got to get a couple of them. And I think in 27, they're making a more concerted effort into that. L. Mills says, whatever. Reallocate those funds into quarterback, receiver, defense line. Yeah, no worries there. Jen Screwed said the dude wore Ohio State gloves during his games after committing to Wisconsin. Obviously, he was a low character guy. I hear it. I guess where I'm at is I remember where I was at 17, 18. And I was I was a disaster. I was a crap show. So I think for me, maybe it's me giving too much grace to quote unquote kids who are now getting paid a lot of money. So maybe they don't deserve as much grace as they would have gotten previously. But I just feel like when there's that much money being thrown around, it's hard for me to kill a kid for taking the highest offer at a position like running back. I could be completely wrong on that, though, and I recognize I'm probably on an island with that take. All right. Let's go here. Any other thoughts? Yeah, Dimitri. Hopkins is rare because they also came here for the education. We have an elite academic program he likes. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, Hopkins is interesting. I think he could be really, really good for us. Dakota Blue says, yep, you have to get Wisconsin guys. All right, let's wrap it up there. Doc says increased funding is to keep your 24 and 25. You can't blow your load on high school recruits. So I really agree with this. You can't go crazy on high school recruits. It doesn't make sense. If you had an unlimited amount of money, maybe if you're Oregon or a couple other schools, Texas Tech, sure. But even with Wisconsin spending more, there's a baseball analogy here. If you go watch baseball, if you're a baseball fan, and a lot of Brewers fans are in the chat here, I'm a Braves fan. There's really rich MLB teams that spend a ton of money who are terrible. And then there's really rich MLB teams who spend a lot of money and are really good because they spend it wisely. So even with Wisconsin taking a jump in resources, you still have to spend it really intelligently, wisely, efficiently. And I don't think getting in a bidding war for a high school running back, as good as he is the best use of those resources. I think you can do better than that, quite frankly. And I love AMARI Latimer. I'm a Latimer guy. I wanted him in this class, and I was willing to push a lot of chips into the table to do that. But you can't continue to do that if West Virginia keeps upping the ante. So I think it's a really good point from Doc, as always. All right, let's wrap it there. Again, on Wisconsin, more shows coming up. A couple guests, I think. It's going to be a ton of fun. We got a bunch more content, as always. And basketball tonight. So we'll obviously do a basketball reaction show as well. On Wisconsin, appreciate y'all so much. Thank you for being part of this community. More content coming. NSD, really love the quarterback. Love a lot of these pieces. Just wish they could have signed a few more bodies in this cycle.